Arthur lived in a small, cozy house on a quiet street. Each day was pretty much the same. He woke up, ate toast with jam, read the newspaper, and went to his job at the library. He liked his job. Books were his friends, always there, always telling stories. But sometimes, Arthur felt a little lonely. He was a kind man, always ready with a smile or a helpful hand. His neighbors liked him, but he didn't have many close friends. He enjoyed his own company, tending to his small garden and reading in his armchair. He was content, mostly. His life was a gentle stream, flowing smoothly and predictably. He wasn't unhappy, but he wasn't exactly bursting with joy either. He often wondered if there was more to life, a little adventure perhaps, but he didn't know how to find it. He felt stuck, like a book left on the shelf, unopened and unread. Little did he know, his life was about to be rewritten, all thanks to a knock at his door. The night was angry. Dark clouds wrestled in the sky, spitting out rain and roaring with thunder. The wind howled like a hungry wolf, rattling Arthur's windows and shaking his small house. Inside, Arthur was curled up in his armchair with a book, trying to ignore the storm's fury. He liked storms, in a way. They made his cozy house feel even cozier. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder shook the house, followed by a frantic series of knocks on the front door. Arthur jumped, startled. He wasn't expecting anyone. Who could be out in this weather? He hesitated for a moment, peering through the peephole. He couldn't see much in the darkness, just the blurry outline of someone standing on his porch. The knocking came again, louder this time, more desperate. Arthur felt a pang of concern. Something must be terribly wrong. He carefully set his book down, got up, and walked towards the door, his heart beating a little faster. He wondered who could possibly need his help on such a dreadful night. He took a deep breath and turned the doorknob. As the door swung inward, a gust of wind and rain blasted into the hallway. Standing there, shivering and soaked to the bone, was a young woman. Her hair was plastered to her face, and her clothes clung to her like a second skin. She looked up at Arthur with wide, pleading eyes. "Please," she gasped, her voice trembling. "Can you help me?" Arthur's heart went out to her. He could see the fear etched on her face. She looked lost and vulnerable, like a small bird caught in the storm. Without hesitation, he stepped aside. Come in," he said, his voice full of concern. "You must be freezing." He quickly ushered her inside, shutting the door against the wind and rain. He couldn't believe someone was in such distress right on his doorstep. This was certainly not something that ever happened on a Tuesday night. This was the beginning of something new. Once inside, the woman continued to shiver. "Thank you," she said, her teeth chattering. "My name is Lily." Arthur helped her to a chair near the fireplace. "I'm Arthur," he replied, hurrying to find a blanket. "Let me get you something warm." He draped the blanket around her shoulders, and she gratefully huddled into it. "I'm so lost," Lily explained, her voice still shaky. "My car. It broke down miles back on that old forest road. I tried to call for help, but there's no signal out there. I walked for hours, I think, trying to find someone, anyone. I saw your light and just hoped." Arthur listened intently, his brow furrowed with concern. "That road is treacherous, especially in this weather," he said. "You're lucky you found your way here." He paused. "You said your car broke down. Do you need me to call someone? A tow truck?" He wanted to help her in any way he could, to ease her distress and fear. He felt a protectiveness he hadn't known he possessed. Lily shook her head. "I think it's too late to call anyone tonight. The storm is too bad. And honestly," she added, wrapping the blanket tighter, "I'm exhausted. If it's all right with you, I'd just like to stay here for the night. I can call for a tow in the morning when the weather is better." Arthur hesitated for a moment. He'd never had a guest before, especially not a stranger. His house was small, and his routine was, well, his routine. But looking at Lily's tired face, he couldn't possibly refuse. "Of course," he said, offering a warm smile. "You can absolutely stay. I have a spare room. It's not much, but it's dry and warm." He felt a strange mix of nervousness and excitement. This was so out of the ordinary for him. "Let me get you some dry clothes," he continued. "I think I have a spare sweater and some old sweatpants that might fit. And how about some hot chocolate? That always makes things better." He bustled off, eager to make her comfortable, a warmth spreading through him that had nothing to do with the fire. Soon, Lily was dressed in Arthur's oversized sweater and sweatpants, sipping a steaming mug of hot chocolate. The color had returned to her cheeks, and the trembling had stopped. She looked much more relaxed. Arthur sat across from her, feeling strangely comfortable himself. "So," Arthur began, a little awkwardly, "what brings you to our little corner of the world?" Lily smiled. "I'm a botanist," she explained. "I study plants. Rare plants, mostly. I'm here looking for a specific type of wildflower that's supposed to grow in these woods. It's quite rare, and I've been tracking it for months." Arthur was fascinated. He'd never met a botanist before. His world revolved around books and quiet routines. Lily's life seemed so much more exciting and adventurous. He asked her about her travels, her research, and the amazing plants she'd discovered. He listened, captivated, as she told stories of far-off places and incredible discoveries. The storm raged outside, but inside, Arthur felt a warmth and excitement he hadn't felt in years. As Lily spoke, Arthur began to see his own life in a different light. His days at the library, once comforting, now seemed a little dull. He thought of his small garden, meticulously tended, but always the same familiar flowers. He realized he had been so focused on order and routine that he had missed out on the wild, unpredictable beauty of the world. Lily's stories sparked something within him, a longing for something more. He imagined himself trekking through jungles, discovering new species of plants, just like her. It was a silly fantasy, he knew, but it felt good to dream. He suddenly felt grateful for the storm, for the broken-down car, for the chance encounter that had brought Lily to his doorstep. She was like a breath of fresh air, blowing away the dust of his quiet existence. He smiled at her, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached his eyes. "Your life sounds amazing," he said, genuinely meaning it. "I've always loved nature, but I've never really explored it." The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean and sparkling in the sunlight. After a simple breakfast, Lily announced she was going to call a tow truck. Arthur offered her the use of his phone, and she quickly arranged for her car to be towed to the nearest repair shop. While Lily was on the phone, Arthur stepped outside to check on his garden. The storm had wreaked a bit of havoc, scattering leaves and petals everywhere. He sighed, surveying the mess. He noticed that one of his rose bushes, a particularly prized variety, had a broken stem. He frowned, unsure how to fix it. Just then, Lily came outside. She saw Arthur looking at the rose bush and walked over. "Oh, that's a shame," she said, examining the broken stem. "But don't worry, it's not a big deal. Here, let me show you something." To Arthur's surprise, Lily expertly trimmed the broken stem and showed him how to splint it with a small twig and some twine. "This should help it heal," she explained with a confident smile. Arthur was amazed. He'd been gardening for years, but he'd never known that trick. "How did you know how to do that?" Arthur asked, genuinely impressed. Lily chuckled. "It's all part of being a botanist," she said. "You learn a lot about plants, including how to care for them. And," she added with a twinkle in her eye, "I've seen a lot of broken stems in my day." Then, she turned serious. "Actually," she continued, "the wildflower I'm looking for is supposed to have some amazing healing properties. It's called the moon petal bloom, and it's incredibly rare. I've been searching for it for weeks, but I haven't had any luck. Arthur's ears perked up. He loved his garden, and he loved learning new things about plants. A rare wildflower, huh? He said, a thoughtful expression on his face. I didn't know there were any rare plants around here. He paused, then a sudden thought struck him. Wait a minute, isn't that the plant Professor Davies was talking about at the library last year? The one he said was only found in this area? He was starting to get a very interesting idea. Lily's eyes widened. Professor Davies? He talked about the moon petal bloom, she asked, her voice filled with excitement. Do you remember anything about where he said it might grow? Arthur scratched his head, trying to recall the details of the lecture. I think he mentioned a place called Shadow Creek, he said. It's a bit of a hike, deep in the woods, but I remember him saying it was the only place he knew of where the plant had been spotted. Lily's face lit up. Shadow Creek. That's it. I've heard of it, but I haven't been able to find precise directions. She turned to Arthur, her eyes shining. Arthur, would you be willing to help me look for it? You know the area, and you clearly know a lot about plants. Arthur's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the adventure he had been longing for. He hesitated for only a moment, then a wide grin spread across his face. I'd love to, he said. Let's find that moon petal bloom. He couldn't wait to escape his routine and explore the woods with Lily. And so, Arthur and Lily set off towards Shadow Creek. Arthur, armed with his old hiking boots and a map he'd found in the attic, led the way. Lily, with her backpack full of botanist tools and a hopeful spirit, followed close behind. The trail was winding and overgrown, but Arthur knew the woods well. He pointed out different types of trees and plants to Lily, sharing his limited but enthusiastic knowledge. Lily, in turn, explained the scientific names and properties of the various flora, opening Arthur's eyes to a whole new world. They laughed as they stumbled over roots and splashed through puddles. They shared stories and dreams, learning more about each other with every step. Arthur felt lighter than he had in years. He was no longer just a librarian, he was an explorer, an adventurer, a companion. He realized that sometimes, the greatest discoveries aren't found in books, but in the world around you, and in the people you share it with. The day was filled with sunshine, laughter, and a growing sense of connection. As the sun began to dip below the trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor, they finally reached Shadow Creek. It was a beautiful, secluded spot, with a small waterfall cascading into a clear, still pool. Lily gasped. This is it, she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. This is exactly the kind of place it would grow. They carefully searched the area around the creek, their eyes scanning every nook and cranny. Arthur, now fully invested in the hunt, was just as eager as Lily to find the elusive moonpetal bloom. He felt a thrill of anticipation with every promising patch of foliage. Suddenly, Lily let out a shout of joy. I found it, she exclaimed, pointing to a small, delicate plant nestled among the rocks near the waterfall. Its petals were a pearly white, and they seemed to glow softly in the fading light. It was the moon petal bloom, just as she had imagined it. She carefully took pictures and notes, her face radiant with happiness. Arthur watched her, his heart filled with a warmth that had nothing to do with the setting sun. He was so happy for her, and so grateful to have been a part of her discovery. The next morning, Lily's car was finally repaired. It was time for her to leave. Arthur felt a pang of sadness he hadn't expected. He knew their time together was limited, but he hadn't realized how much he would miss her. They stood on his porch, the morning sun casting a warm glow on their faces. Lily turned to Arthur, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, Arthur, she said, her voice sincere. For everything. For taking me in, for helping me find the moon petal bloom. You've been so kind. Arthur shrugged, trying to hide his disappointment. It was my pleasure, Lily, he said. I enjoyed our adventure. I'll never forget it, Lily replied. You showed me the beauty of this place, and you reminded me that even the smallest acts of kindness can make a big difference. She paused, then added, I'm going to miss our talks, and your stories. And even your terrible map-reading skills. She gave him a playful nudge. Arthur smiled. I'll miss you too, Lily, he said quietly. He knew that things would never be quite the same after she left. Lily reached into her bag and pulled out a small, smooth stone. I wanted to give you something, she said, handing it to Arthur. I found this by Shadow Creek. It's a wishing stone. They say if you hold it and make a wish, it might come true. Arthur took the stone, turning it over in his hand. It was cool and smooth, and it felt strangely comforting. Thank you, Lily, he said, his voice a little choked up. I'll treasure it. Lily smiled, then gave Arthur a warm hug. Goodbye, Arthur, she said. Don't forget to look for the magic in the world, even in the most ordinary places. She turned and walked towards her car, her backpack swinging behind her. Arthur watched as she drove away, a small cloud of dust rising in her wake. He stood there for a long time, holding the wishing stone tightly in his hand, feeling a mix of sadness and hope. The world seemed a little quieter, a little emptier, without Lily. But it also felt a little brighter, a little more full of possibilities. He knew, deep down, that she had changed him forever. Back inside his quiet house, Arthur felt the silence pressing in on him. It was the same silence he had always known, but now it felt different, heavier somehow. He looked around at his familiar surroundings, his armchair, his books, his neatly arranged shelves, and they seemed smaller. He walked over to the window and looked out at his garden. It was still beautiful, but now he saw it with new eyes. He realized that he had been so careful to keep everything in order that he had missed out on the wildness, the unexpected beauty that nature had to offer. He held the wishing stone in his hand and closed his eyes. He didn't know exactly what to wish for, but he knew he wanted something to change. He wanted to be braver, to be more open to new experiences, to embrace the unknown. He wanted to live a life that was as vibrant and adventurous as Lily's. When he opened his eyes, he felt a flicker of hope, a sense that anything was possible. He knew that Lily's visit had planted a seed in his heart, a seed that was just beginning to sprout. The next day, Arthur decided to make a change. He started small. Instead of his usual toast with jam, he tried a new breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese. It wasn't a huge difference, but it was something. He took a different route to the library, exploring streets he had never walked before. He noticed details he had never seen before, a hidden garden, a colorful mural, a quirky little shop. He even stopped and bought himself a new hat, a bright blue one that felt a little silly but also a little exciting. At the library, he found himself drawn to books he would have normally overlooked, travel guides, nature documentaries, biographies of explorers. He even checked out a book on botany, wanting to learn more about the plants that Lily loved so much. He realized that adventure didn't have to mean trekking through jungles or discovering rare wildflowers. It could be found in the everyday, in the small choices he made, in the willingness to try new things. Lily had shown him that, and he was determined to keep that spirit alive. But Arthur didn't stop there. He wanted to do something bigger, something that would truly honor Lily's visit and his newfound appreciation for nature. He thought about his garden, the small, carefully tended space that had always been his sanctuary. He decided to transform it. He would create a special garden dedicated to rare and unusual plants, just like the ones Lily studied. He started researching different varieties, learning about their unique needs and habitats. He ordered seeds and seedlings from all over the world, transforming his backyard into a vibrant, ever-changing landscape. He spent hours working in his garden, his hands digging in the soil, his heart filled with purpose. He talked to the plants, nurturing them, coaxing them to grow. He felt a connection to them, a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before. He even built a small pond, hoping to attract dragonflies and other interesting creatures. His neighbors were amazed by the transformation, and they often stopped by to admire his work and ask him questions. Arthur, no longer the quiet, reserved librarian, happily shared his knowledge and enthusiasm. He was a new man, blooming just like his garden. Months passed. Arthur's garden flourished, becoming a local attraction. People came from miles around to admire the exotic plants and to hear Arthur's stories. He even started giving gardening workshops, sharing his knowledge with others and inspiring them to create their own little oases of beauty. One sunny afternoon, as Arthur was tending to his prize-winning orchid, he heard a familiar voice. "Excuse me," the voice said, "is this the famous Arthur's garden?" Arthur looked up, and his heart skipped a beat. Standing before him, her eyes shining with delight, was Lily. He couldn't believe it. He felt a surge of happiness so intense that it almost took his breath away. "Lily," he exclaimed, a wide grin spreading across his face. "What are you doing here?" Lily smiled. "I heard about this amazing garden," she said, gesturing around at the vibrant blooms. "And I had a feeling it might be yours. I had to see it for myself." She walked towards him, her eyes sparkling with warmth and something more, something that made Arthur's heart flutter. Lily wandered through the garden, her eyes wide with admiration. "It's incredible, Arthur," she said, touching a delicate blossom. "You've created something truly special here." She turned to him, her gaze earnest. "I can see how much you love it." Arthur blushed, pleased by her praise. "It's all thanks to you, Lily," he said. "You inspired me to see the world in a different way." He paused, then added, "I missed you." Lily's eyes softened. "I missed you too, Arthur," she confessed. "I've been traveling all over, searching for rare plants, but I kept thinking about you and your garden. I realized that the most beautiful things aren't always the rarest or the most exotic. Sometimes, they're the ones you share with someone special." She took a step closer to him, her voice barely a whisper. "And I wanted to share this with you." Arthur's heart fluttered. He reached out and gently took her hand. "Lily," he said, his voice full of emotion, "what are you saying?" Lily squeezed his hand gently. "I'm saying that I've been searching for something my whole life," she said, her voice soft and sincere. "And I think I've found it here, with you." Arthur's heart swelled with happiness. He had never dared to dream that Lily might feel the same way about him. He looked into her eyes, seeing a reflection of his own hopes and dreams. "I feel the same way, Lily," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "You've brought so much joy and excitement into my life. I can't imagine my world without you." Lily smiled, a radiant, beautiful smile that lit up her entire face. "Then don't," she said. "Don't imagine it." And with that, they leaned in and kissed, surrounded by the beauty of Arthur's garden, a garden that had bloomed not only with rare and unusual plants but also with the promise of a love that would last a lifetime. The storm that had brought them together had long since passed, but the warmth of their connection would forever illuminate their lives. From that day forward, Arthur and Lily embarked on a new adventure together. They continued to tend to Arthur's garden, adding new and exciting plants from Lily's travels. They also traveled together, exploring new places and discovering the wonders of the natural world. Arthur even left his job at the library, deciding to dedicate his life to his garden and to sharing his love of nature with others. He and Lily gave workshops, led tours, and inspired countless people to connect with the earth. They never forgot the night of the storm, the night that had brought them together. They often told the story, laughing about the broken-down car and the frantic knocking at the door. They knew that fate had played a hand in their meeting, and they were grateful for every moment they had together. And so, Arthur, the once lonely librarian, lived a life filled with love, adventure, and the endless beauty of the natural world, all thanks to the kindness he had shown to a woman in distress at his doorstep. He had helped her, little knowing that she would change everything, and for that, he was eternally grateful. They lived happily ever after, their lives a testament to the power of kindness and the magic of unexpected encounters.